Hi guys, welcome back to Area 6. And tonight we're going to go right back to the mid 1970s for this one. I would have been 10 years old. My brother Gary, for those that don't know my name, because obviously you know the channel is Access Area 6, my name's Kevin. My brother, his name's Gary, and he was more my best mate than a brother. We always hung around together. School holidays, after school, we had our own friends. I had a mate lived across the road called Billy Brown. He had a friend. He had a mate called Michael Stanley, and we'd all call for each other. We'd all hang around together. So there'd be four of us, and we was always looking to do odd jobs, to earn a bit of money, like. And in the mid 70s, guys, 10, 20p, 30p, 50, it was a lot of money for a 9, 10-year-old kid. And in them days as well, you had half-pence pieces. So you go to a shop to buy a 10-pence mix, and you could buy a 10-pence mix, 20-pence mix. Use 10-pence mix, you get 20 sweets, because everything was half a p. A 20-pence mix, you'd get 40 sweets in a bag for, because it was all half-pence each. I think they got rid of the half-pence in the early 80s. I'm sure it was. Yeah, very early 80s, I think they disappeared. So anyway, we used to go knocking on doors, especially the elderly, old people that lived on their own, because we'd do the gardens, we'd earn money. And I mean, you couldn't do that. I don't think kids knock on somebody's door nowadays. Nobody's going to answer the door, because things was different back then. Everybody had more trust in the 1970s, 60s, 70s. There's a lot more trust. Trust has gone now. We was always knocking on doors, trying to earn some money. And then one particular store I'm going to go to, it was a winter time, and we used to go sometimes snow shoveling, clearing people's paths. So there'd be four of us, big shovel each, knocking on doors. Do you want your path clearing? 20p each, pays 20p each, or whatever. And yeah, we'd get loads of jobs. And there was one particular time we all agreed to go to this what we called Millionaires Row, and it weren't far from where we lived. But every house down this, it was a long lane, and every house down this long laney road, private, was like a mansion that stood on its own. So you knew it was rich, upper class people, and they all had like big long driveways covered in snow. And what we did this one particular year, we went down and we agreed not to trespass, because they'll phone the police and whatever. So any house we came to where the gate was shut, I mean, we're talking big metal, steel, iron gates that was locked, closed. And we come to one particular path, the gate was wide open, and the driveway was about, I'd say the driveway would have been compared. I mean, when you're a kid, things always seem bigger. You look back and you think, no, it wasn't as big. But I'd say about 50 to 100 feet long driveway, covered in snow. The biggest, poshest car I'd ever seen. When you're looking back, I mean, I'm going back like 50 years, guys. I think the car might have been a Bentley, could have been a Rolls Royce, something like that. It was a big, all I saw was this big, massive, really old style, beautiful car. So anyway, knocked on the door. Woman answered. And all four of us stood there with our shovels, and says, "Oh, don't you snow clearing from your driveway?" And she goes, how much is that going to cost me? So we all looked at each other. It was like quid, £2 each. So she agreed to pay us £2 each. We was well happy. So anyway, we cleared the whole driveway up to the car. Obviously, they didn't go underneath the car, and then from the back of the car all the way up to the garage section. So yeah, we cleared all the path, and we went to knock on the door to see that we'd cleared it. But the man of the house, he must have been watching us out the window at some point, because we didn't even get to knock on the door. The door opened, and I couldn't believe, none of us could believe who was stood there. Guys, no word of a lie, it was Peter Shilton, the Nottingham Forest goalkeeper. Obviously, we was all from Nottingham, so we was all Forest fans. We was well aware of who Peter Shilton was. I think he played for England as well. He was their goalkeeper as well. Guys, we couldn't believe it. And I asked him, I goes, you Peter Shilton? And he says, yeah. Mate, he gave us a £5 note each. Oh, mate, it was unbelievable. So anyway, we all like, I think I don't know what happened to it, but there was me, and I think Michael was standing there. Gary and Billy had already run off with their fivers at this point, and he came out with a felt tip painting and signed our shirts. I don't know what happened to mine. You lose them over the years. Anyway, that was an unbelievable part of our lives growing up. Anyway, after a while, me and Gary started to notice this oldish, well, not oldish, I'd say he was in his 40s, early 40s to mid 40s. This guy used to walk up the road with his dog. He had this black Labrador, and he used to walk past our house with this black Labrador, probably 2-3 days a week. And then about 2-3 hours later, we'd see him carrying the dog back. And anyway, we was across the road at Billy's one day, and his name was Fred, this oldish, middle-aged fella was. And anyway, he comes walking up, and he knew Billy's family, so he stops and talks to us, and we're petting his dog, saying, "Oh, what's your dog's name?" and all this. Like, he says, "Oh," and it was a pure black Labrador. In fact, the only colour different, the whole body of this dog was jet black. I think the only different colour was he had brown eyes. I always remember it had lovely brown eyes. And we asked him this Fred, so, "Oh, what's your dog's name?" And he's like, "Oh, it's Blackie." So anyway, he went, and I said to Billy, I goes, "We see him pass our house every day, walking his dog, and then like 3 hours later, he's carrying it back." And he's like, "Yeah," he says he goes to the pub with his dog drinks beer with him, and then the dog's too drunk to walk back, so Fred ends up carrying him home. We thought it was quite funny anyway. Yeah, so and one day we did Queen Adelaide. I think it was the Queen Adelaide pub. That was his favourite pub that Fred went to. So one day we was up that area. So I said, "Billy, let's go and have a look." And next thing we get to the pub, we seen Fred sat on the wall of the pub, and he's got his beer tankard. And one of us, I can't remember which, one of us mentioned his beer tankard. He says, "Oh yeah, I'll keep this behind the bar." Same as Blackie's bowl. Blackie had a bowl what he used to pour his beer into, and Blackie's bowl matched his tankard, and that was kept behind the bar as well. I mean, do they do that nowadays? Probably not. So anyway, anyway, over time, kept seeing Fred walking his dog, and I says, "Gary, one day, I says, what if we go down to Fred's, and like, because he's going to be a bit drunk," and he got into, we realised his routine. He'd get home from the pub with his dog, and he'd probably have 2 or 3 hours sleep. So come 5 in the afternoon, he'd be waking up. I says, "Gaz, what if we go down just in time, like sort of thing, off 5 o'clock, 5:30, and just ask him if he wants something from the shop, because he's going to be too out of his head to go." So anyway, we went down. First time we did it, knocked on his door, he come to the door. And obviously we said, oh, we'll see you walk past the house. And he says, yeah, I've seen you lads on the streets hanging around. He says, yeah, he says, get us a couple of Eccles cakes. And he always had what was called Eccles cakes. And I don't hear of them now. I don't even think you can get them anymore. But it was well known back in the 70s. So he said to us, get us a couple of Eccles cakes, keep the change. He used to give us a pound note. That's the thing as well. There was pound notes in them days. There was no pound coins. It was pound notes. It was a green pound note. I always remember them. And yeah, it passes this pound note. It would say, get us a couple of Eccles cakes, keep the change, split change between you. So we'd end up with something like 30 pence each. I think these Eccles cakes was only, it was only like 20 pence each. And we'd end up with like 30 pence each to spend on sweets, whatever. Anyway, it became a routine to, not all the time, but it got to a routine where we'd see Fred, go down to his house, and yeah, just knock on. You know, I mean, it got to a point where everybody in the area knew that we was at. I think they used to call it Bob a Job, but it got to the point where everybody in the area knew. Oh, if lads, the chat was over, lads, can you do this? Can you do this for me? You know, it's 20, 30p, and yeah, the we'd do also. I mean, there was one old lady. We was walking down the road one day, and she was leaning on her front gate, and she kept looking up. And I said, Billy, I can't remember her name. I can't remember her name at all. Anyway, I remember saying to Billy at the time, I said, look at such and such. She keeps looking at us. Anyway, as we got closer, she starts waving us on, waving us over. And she's, oh, lads, do you want to earn 20 pence each? And we're like, yeah. She goes, I need a wardrobe getting from upstairs down into the living room. So we're like, I mean, there was 4 of us. So we're like, come on, let's go upstairs, get Soda this wardrobe, takes it downstairs. And yeah, 20 pence each. She was well up there, we was off to the shops. We did loads of gardens in the area. There was one guy who lived on Billy's Road. He had like a brick wall going around his house. And he says to us, he says, you take that wall down, take that wall apart. He says, I'll give you 50 pence each. And I'm like, yeah. So we did. We enjoyed doing that one. It's like a demolition job. Smashing this wall up, you know, kicking it, pulling it, and yeah, we soon got that wall down. But yeah, anyway, moving on. So yeah, there was one day, it went on for a while where I said to Gaz, I hadn't seen Fred for like nearly a week. You know, I hadn't seen him walk past the house, unless we missed him, you know. But we knew his routine. We knew when he'd be walking past when he was, I mean, this was the middle of summer, 6 weeks holiday, red hot. I mean, it didn't get dark till like 10, half 10 at night. So anyway, I said to Gaz, I said, it's been about nearly a week. I says, I haven't seen him at all. He says, oh, we'll nip down and see if he's all right. So anyway, went walking down. Got to his house was, as you entered his front gate, his front door was like on the side. So you got his front window directly facing his front gate. And then you got a path going down the side, and his front door's just on the side there. And when he gets through his game, we saw Blackie in the garden, just sat there panting, because it was hot. He's just sat there with his tongue out. So anyway, I said, Skaz, well, he's in, because Blackie's there. So anyway, knocking on the door. No answer. Knocking again, knocking a bit louder, no answer. I said, Skaz, I'm going to just quick listen through the letterbox, see if you can hear it. Couldn't hear nothing. So anyway, went round to the front of the house to have a look through. He had like a bay window style thing. So anyway, we was trying to look through the window, but in them days, everybody had like net curtains, you know, the old type. So we couldn't really see much. And we're like this, trying to, I says to Gaz, I says, can you see her? And he's like, no. And we realised this settee, the back of his settee was right in front of the bay of the window sort of thing. So you couldn't even see what was on the settee. So I says to Gaz, I says, I wonder if he's asleep on the settee. So anyway, Went back round to the side of the house, banging on the door. I says to Gaz, try the handle. So anyway, just as Gary's going to pull the handle down, we heard the key in the door. So anyway, like, yeah, he's all right. So anyway, he's come to the door and he's like rubbing his eyes. He's like, oh, lads, I'm glad you've turned up because, you woke me up. I'm like, oh, sorry about that, Fred. And he's like, no. He says, I needed to wake up. So anyway, he says, do you want to come in? So anyway, we went in, sat down, and I said to him, I says, getting a bit worried about you, Fred, because you won't answer the door, but we knew you was in because seen Blackie out in the garden. And he looked at me and Gary and he went, you saw what? I says, we knew you was in because we just, as was come down your path, we've seen Blackie in the garden. He looked at us and he goes, you come to them. I was like, me and Gary looked at each other and we was like, oh, we did. He says, Blackie died 4 days ago. And we were like, nah, we've just seen him, Fred. And he's like, no. He says, lads, Blackie died 4 days ago. He says, that was the last time I went to the pub with him. He says, took him to the pub. He says, he had a couple of pints. He says, I carried him home. He says, and on the way home, he says, I knew he'd gone. I felt him take his last breath. He says, so I came home and I buried him. And me and Gary just like looked at each other. I was like, Fred, are you kidding us or what? And he's like, lads, he says, Blackie died 4 days ago. I buried him in the garden. Anyway, we all went outside and I looked around and Blackie weren't there. And Fred says to me, says, where did you see him? And at exactly the same time, me and Gary both pointed to where Blackie was like sat, panting. And Fred looks at us and he says, well, that's where I buried him. Guys, I swear to God, and I says to guys, I says, we saw Blackie, didn't we? And he was like, yeah, we seen him. And we was trying to convince Fred, we saw him with our own bare eyes. And it was broad daylight. It was like 5:30 in the afternoon. Anyway, when we left, I says to guys, I says, we saw Blackie, didn't we? And he went, yeah. He goes, Kev, we did. He says, 100% we did. We saw him in the garden on the path. We seen Blackie sat there. And I knew we did. 100%, 100,000,000%, I know we did. So, yeah. And that is the experience that me and Gary had when we was kids. So, and there's always a thing that I always remember when, because we told my mum, I can't remember telling my dad. My dad weren't really, cooperative towards us. He didn't really, kids are better off seen than not heard. He was that type of guy. So we didn't really talk to him, but I remember telling my mum about it, and I always remember a phrase what my mum said. So if there's anything you can take from this experience that me and my brother had, my mum said to me, she goes, just because they're not here, it doesn't mean they've gone. And guys, I've remembered that ever since. And yeah, so if you can take anything from the experience that me and my brother had from when we were kids, that's only that was the first time ever I knew I saw a ghost. First time in my life I saw a ghost. There was another time, but that was years and years. That was when I was in my 20s. I did see something else, I believe, but that's another day. So guys, if you take out from this, just remember, just because they're not here doesn't mean they're gone. And I'll leave it for that. Leave it out for now. But it's an experience I'll never forget. Me and Gary, we got to the point where we didn't talk about it. There was one time I remember at school getting into a bit of a scuffle with this lad because I was telling somebody, and then all I got was from this lad calling me a liar, no such thing, and all this lot. So I got into a bit of a fight with him, Our teacher there, Mr. Bird, he kind of got hold of us, and he took me to one side. He says, look, he says, just best off, just don't talk about it, don't mention it. So it got to the point where me and Gary never spoke about it, never talked about it, only to each other, like, over the years, as we grow older, we'd meet up, and one of us would say, oh, do you remember Blackie? And we're like, yeah, 100%. We seen that dog. We saw that dog on that path. That's no word of a lie, guys. No word of a lie. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I just thought I'd share that experience with you. Because I did put it on. I'm feeling a bit choked up now, just thinking about him. Yeah, because I put it in the comments saying if anybody wants to hear that story, I'll tell it. And yeah, but it's not about getting people to believe, in the paranormal. It's not about that. It's because everybody will have their own experience. Everybody's got their own take on it. I'm not really bothered if you don't believe me. I don't really care. Me and my brother Gary, we know what we saw. There's no light trickery because it was daylight, 5 in the afternoon. You know exactly what we saw. Anyway, guys, for the next one, I'll catch you in a bit. All right.